so I'm just going to kick things off with a bit of a story. So this is the story of Jasmine and breatharianism. So she was in the news a lot about 15 years ago, but if you haven't heard of her, she claims to not require any food, and she only needs very little fluids, because she has been able to master the art of breatharianism. So basically, that means that she claims to be able to absorb nutrients directly from the air. These micronutrients are floating around the air. Through practice, you can breathe it in and just absorb that through breathing. Pretty handy stuff. So okay, what she's claiming is she has an alternate framework to nutrition, which is quite different to our current scientific understanding of nutrition. But okay, fair enough. So this is a testable claim. We can now go and run an experiment and test whether this is a viable alternate framework. And so 60 Minutes asked her to come on a television experiment to prove that she could actually survive on no food and water. So she agreed to be locked in a hotel room for a number of days, where she was monitored by a security guard to make sure she didn't eat or drink anything, and by a doctor to make sure she stayed a perfect example of health. So to cut a very long story short, after 4 days, the doctor noticed that Jasmine was slurring her words. Her resting heart rate was twice as high as it was at the start of the experiment, and she was 10% dehydrated, and she was about to go into liver failure. So basically, so the doctor said that the experiment should be ended on the grounds of concerns for Jasmine's health. But what we can conclude here is we pretty comfortably say that her version of nutrition just does not work. No surprises there. So we shouldn't feel like now that it's dogmatic or opinionated to say that her version of health does not work, or her version of nutrition doesn't work. And this isn't a trivial issue either, because there have been at least 4 cases around the world where people have died as a result of trying to practice breatharianism, as promoted by Jasmine. So, but even to this day, Jasmine does not see the light, and she refuses to acknowledge the results of the experiment and the science and the evidence, and still claims that breatharianism is a viable alternate framework to nutrition. So now we can put this in terms of a bit of an analogy. So let's imagine that Jasmine and her followers are playing a game of soccer with some doctors. They've all agreed on what they're playing, and they've all agreed on what the rules of the game of soccer are. And so the doctors get together and discuss the strategy, and they talk about how they're going to come up with this plan to win the game of soccer, score as many goals as possible. And they intend to adjust this plan over time if it turns out it's not working and they're losing. Jasmine's team, on the other hand, when the game starts, they don't feel the need to try and score any goals, and they don't even feel the need to try and prove that they're scoring any goals. And so when the game ends and the doctors have won 100 goals to 0, Jasmine's team is still claiming that they're winning the game of soccer, but we can pretty comfortably say they're just crappy soccer. So, so yeah, we did this test, and post-test, it just does not stack up. So Jasmine and her team, they're talking about things that place their goals in the same place. They've all agreed on what the rules of the game are. So they all agreed they're valuing a healthy lifestyle, just one team is better at achieving that than the other. But what happens if we have someone who doesn't even agree on playing the same game? Their goalposts are just in different places, different position. So now let's imagine we have a small child who's in desperate need of a vaccine, or they will die of some preventable disease in a few days. So the doctor comes in and is about to administer this vaccine to the child. And the parents of this child come in and they say, no, you can't give our child the vaccine. We just don't value our child being free of disease. We just don't value our child being healthy. So they might completely agree that the vaccine will work. They're not disagreeing on the facts of the matter. What they're disagreeing on is the game they're playing. So whereas Jasmine is disregarding the evidence, these parents are just playing a completely different game. But we can see that in both of these cases, both with Jasmine and these parents, we wouldn't just give in. We would say that both of these thoughts are dangerous, and this child is clearly in danger. So now we can scale this up to some more global problems that effective altruists are very interested in. And we can see also that there are people who disregard the facts, and there are people who aren't even playing the same game. So on disregarding the facts, people might disagree about which charity to donate to, or whether donating to charities is the most effective thing we could be doing at that time. And again, fair enough, these are testable claims, and we can try and think about these in a scientific way and work out which charity to donate to or which projects to undertake to try and do the most good. But also people can disagree on what they're even valuing, what game they're playing. So someone might say, why should I donate to charities, or why should I value the well-being of other people? But I would argue, just like these parents are robbing this child of well-being by saying they just don't value their health, if someone says that they just don't value the well-being of other people around the world, or of non-human animals or of future populations, in the same way they are robbing these people of well-being. And if we accept Peter Singer's view that there's no morally relevant difference between the life of someone on the other side of the world and the life of someone in front of us, then we should be concerned about this. There are people who are disregarding on the facts of how to play the game, or how to best play the game, and disregarding the game we're playing altogether. And what could be more important than getting 7 billion people to agree on what ethical game we're playing and how best to win it? So what we're arguing for here is some form of moral realism. So that is to say we don't necessarily have all the right answers. We're pretty sure there are some right answers out there, and we're pretty sure that some answers are more right than others. So ignoring flow-on effects and all that, we're pretty sure that giving this child the vaccine is better than not giving the child the vaccine. Given that you're here, you probably subscribe to some form of utilitarianism. So that is, you almost certainly would, I'd guess, value well-being, and you want to try and increase well-being and minimize suffering. But there's still some reluctance in effective altruism to say that other people should also value these things. One thing I hear often is if someone says that they value well-being and want to try and reduce suffering, and someone else says I just don't really value those things, or I don't care about other people. The thought seems to be, well, okay, I value well-being, but who am I to say that you should also value these things? But I think we're missing out on a big opportunity to do a lot of good here. So if you could convince just one other person to care about well-being as much as you do, you could essentially double your impact. There is good reason to believe that pitching effective altruism as a moral obligation in the first instance is probably not the best way to go about things. I'm not disagreeing with that. But if you've gone and pitched effective altruism as this fantastic opportunity to do so much good, you've talked about the massive impact you can have with a small donation, a very little cost to yourself, and someone says, I'm not disagreeing on that, I totally agree with the outcomes there. I just don't value the well-being of other people or of non-human animals or whatever. At that point, you have to ask, should you try and convince them that they actually should care about the well-being of others? So what we want to do is try and arm you with this argument to be able to say from a scientific basis why people should value the well-being of others. What should we be valuing? And so we're going to go through this argument step by step, beginning from the base assumption, working it up, looking at some of the common criticisms that people have when they think about this. But we're going to try and show that they just don't hold up. So so we don't necessarily think that talking about this as an obligation when you first mention effective altruism is the best way to go about things. But if someone says that they just don't care, then and you're locked in a room with them for an hour or something, then you want someone to do, then you should try and use this argument to convince them that they should care about the well-being of others. So if you know me, you'll know that I'm not a philosopher myself. I'm a scientist, but that's why I'm delegating the workshop to Rob Farquharson, who is a PhD student at the University of Adelaide in philosophy. He's going to try and take us through this argument. So we're going to have it as a bit more of a open discussion. So we're going to go through the argument, but we're going to try and address any concerns, questions that people have as and when they come up, and go through things that way. So that's all I have, and thanks for listening. Hope to see you at the workshop.